Guys, and welcome back. For today's Dragon Ball Legends video, I'm going to be taking every single one of the characters that released in a sparking rarity or higher, sorry, the EXs did not get part of this video, in the previous Legends Festival, so 2020, 2021, and 2022. We're going to be ranking them on this tier list and talking about relevance in these characters. I want to kind of also talk about how good they were when they released, and also we'll rank them based on how good they are also today, in my opinion. I hope you guys enjoy. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe and comment on anything down below. Actually, for today, which of these characters that you see on the screen do you think, outside of the Ultras, because that's pretty easy pickings, right? Outside of the Ultras, which of these characters do you think was the most impactful character on release, and also the best aging character? Those are two questions that they don't have to be mutually exclusive, because some of these characters, you know, age pretty well too. So let me know. All right, so we're going to start off with 2020, and huge shout out to years past, like 2019, I believe, around New Year's-ish, we got the Super Saiyan 4s and stuff like that. But Legends Festival didn't really become a namesake, a celebration, a thing that they really started leaning into until 2020, where they dropped UI Goku, the Pride Troopers, and they followed up with Gogeta and Broly, and I believe Frieza was in that slot, not Broly. Anyway, moving on. In terms of like Green Broly, right? I believe Green Broly was the following year. Anyway, let's go ahead and hop in with the vaunted Ultra Instinct Goku. He's going to S tier. First and foremost, first Goku UI in the game, obviously. One of the first unique gauge characters in the game. In fact, he may be the original. I don't think that's true, but he's one of the first ones, obviously. Anyway, also, he did have the auto dodge, was super impactful when he released, aged pretty well, actually. His issue was that if he got hit, he would get obliterated, but that's not anything new. If you take cues from Dokkan, that was also the case back then, too. So anyway, moving on. He's also since got a Zenkai, so he's one of the best characters on this list, period. Super duper strong character, strong Zenkai ability, but again, harkening back to on release, was very relevant and it was in every match. Super crazy strong character. Jiren also has a Zenkai. Jiren, I think, is an A tier for this video right now. I may move him around. Maybe he makes it into S a little bit later. Probably a little underrated currently. I think he's pretty solid, though I think he does have some decent competition on some of his teams. That's kind of something that you have to consider with these characters too. That also applies to probably every character on this list, but regardless, I'm not going to hold that against him too much. But I think Jiren, having the abilities he had, he would hit so hard, having blast armor. His green card was really strong too. Like, Jiren was a very versatile character that did a lot of things well. I believe he also had cut penetration, if I recall correctly. I haven't read his kit in a while since he got his Zenkai, but nonetheless, Jiren was an awesome character. Topo and Dispo have not received Zenkais yet. I'm going to just do Dispo first. D. So Dispo was that type of character that if he caught you off guard, he could do some good damage. He had good combo potential, pretty interesting character, but I don't think was ever really able to take off in the meta. He's that character that just was, like, you know, replaced on the team. He wasn't part of the core. He was that one you dropped. So unfortunate, but it is what it is. So Dispo, like I said, want to give him credit. He could be a good combo monster. I liked his playstyle, but he just would get ran through. Topo is actually legit. Like, I think Topo is probably better on the grand sum of these things when you look at when he released than some of these other characters are going to wind up being. But I can't put him any higher than B. He may move down to C simply because he's power crept and doesn't have a Zenkai. But he had endurance, so that was very, very strong in that meta at that time period. Obviously, it was very common, but not as common as it is today, as you would imagine. Also, the abundance of nullify endurance is like crazy now versus then too. That's another thing to consider. Also, Topo had the support effects that would just make his allies go freaking crazy. Topo also, I believe, had no switch on his ultimate, right? Topo was just interesting. Really, really strong character, so don't sleep on him at all. Gogeta doesn't have a Zenkai. I would actually really like to put him in S. Do I put him in S? I think UI Goku's like clearly better. It feels like a disservice to put him below S though, because he's the type of character that's power crept now, but has enough good things in his kit to where, like, if he catches somebody off guard, I think even today could still do good work. It feels almost like a disservice, but I'm gonna put him here. I typically don't do the left to right thing where it matters left to right, but I will. And I'll leave it ambiguous, up to you guys. So he doesn't have a Zenkai, he doesn't have a Platinum equip, so those two things I think are kind of holding him back in terms of how good he actually could be overall. So anyway, the cover change nullification on entry, very strong, obviously, having that multiple times, a very, very powerful effect. Also, his green card was ridiculous. It still is really strong, but back then, oh my God, the sentiment was with him, if he got the green card, you might as well pack it up because you're going to lose the game. That's how strong that green card is and was back then. You basically lost if he got the green card on you. And then his ultimate was, for the longest time, one of the hardest, if not the single hardest hitting ultimate in the game. So, like, and also brownie points for having, in my opinion, the best LF in the entire game, too. Yeah, like, it almost feels like a disservice. Like, I almost want to put him an S simply because of how strong he was on release, but I think that he is power crept. But like I said, I do think if you use him today, he can catch some people off guard and the right setup, things like that. Broly, unlike Gogeta, does have a... Broly doesn't have a Zenkai right now, does he? He has the equip only. It's if I'm forgetting the Zenkai, forgive me. Regardless, though, his playstyle doesn't really change much. Broly is an interesting one. I'm going to put him at A as well. Broly was interesting simply because he was that character. I remember saying when he came out, dude, you just don't even have to switch. Because when Broly got rolling, he was getting Vanish back. He was doing all these things. He was a one-man army. And that is so cool to me because that's how he's designed to be as a character. That's typically what you... Broly, like, if you ever said, like, if you were to, like, equate a trait to a character, like, in the series, whether it's DBS Broly or DBZ Broly, one-man army is synonymous with Broly, right? Like, that's who he is. So I thought that that design choice was perfect for him. And he just had crazy staying power because he also had the blast armor. He was doing so many things, man. He has so many tools in his kit. It's unfortunate that those platinum equips, they just make these characters kind of like marginally better. They're not making them like crazy strong. And we are seeing that with the recent ones where it's like they're not getting crazy better, like with Orange Piccolo things. He almost feels almost the same, you know, like so maybe when he gets a Zenkai, I feel like he doesn't have it, but something in me is telling me he has it. Anyway, maybe when he gets the platinum equip awoken, things like that, it'll get a little bit better. Frieza, I'm gonna put Frieza in B, although I thought that Frieza was very impactful. I think that Frieza was a character that could catch people off guard. His green card was, it's still kind of weird how it functions, like a long range green card. I think it also might be a long animation, so it's just kind of wonky, but if he gets the green, he's gonna pop off pretty good. That's the main like staying point from Frieza. If I recall correctly, he might have also had paralysis in his kit. I could be confusing him with a different character, but nonetheless, Frieza was a character that you could use. But the problem with Frieza also is that Broly was in a lot of matches. These characters were just, it just wasn't a great time for him. So it's kind of hard. Sometimes when you get these character releases, they just get gatekept, right? These characters just get gatekept by allies that are on their teams or very relevant in the meta. We saw that with like the 2-year anniversary where Omega Shenron had that AoE green. I think he also did sub count manipulation on it. Like Omega Shenron was super good. Also Buhan in the 1 year, but they just got gatekept by the premier character. So anyway, moving on, we're gonna look at 2021. And we have Trunks here next. I'm really annoyed. I feel like Broly might have been in that time slot, like I mentioned earlier. I'm pretty sure I'm right, though. I'm pretty sure I got the order right. So Trunks. Trunks has a Zenkai, and that Zenkai made him relevant again, and he's going all the way to S because of it. Actually, these two S's got their Zenkais in the same celebration, didn't they? Was that anniversary? They got them like nearly back to back. So that's kind of funny. Trunks is a wall, man. The problem with Trunks is now that like he was really freaking good, and you can still use him because he didn't just get crazy power crowd. Really, just the environment around him changed, right? Like Janemba doesn't give a damn about Trunks. Like, like the environment around him changed. So it is what it is. But conceptually, his Zenkai, everything like that made him really, really strong. Very strong character. Good wall. Hardest hitting ultimate again when he released. Just insanely strong character. You did not want to get matched up with Trunks and have him pop off against you. He did have the restriction that they alleviated for how his team needed to be constructed to get like his endurance and stuff. They alleviated that a lot, and that made him a lot more usable and better in the Zenkai as well. Goku and Vegeta. So they may be the most unique character on this list. First and foremost, being the introduction of a tag mechanic, reverse element, all that stuff is really cool, really strong. But my problem with them is that I think them and some of the other characters, but them probably the most, they fell off so crazy hard when they fell out of boost system. So like a few months later, the boost system dropped them, and they just fell like a... I think it was a perfect storm of events, because you could tell they were very, very apprehensive of this character's release, because in hindsight, They released a lot of characters that were made to exist in that meta. I think like the Green Goku, who was like a green character, the Kaioken, who did bonus damage versus purples and took reduced damage versus purples. That's clearly with this character in mind, right? Also, Reverse Element does have its strength points, but also its weaknesses, because now you're all of a sudden susceptible to green characters and things like that. And also, I think their stat spread might have been a little bit lower. I'm just going based off of recollection. So also just the characters, like aside from the green characters, but just the characters existing at that time, they kind of just fell off really quickly thereafter, unfortunately. And their main sticking point after a while was that they could flip types, but then that stopped being all that impressive a little bit later too. And you know, it just kind of is what it is. But I think that on release, they were so strong, so impactful, so crazy, that I think that that is enough to warrant an A tier for them. The way I was talking about it, I reserved placing them because I was trying to talk myself into putting them in B. I think that they deserve A because of the way that they were. So this is a little bit tricky because I have dual criterias, right? So people are going to watch this and be like, well, I'm confused on the criteria. Like I said in the beginning, it's dual criterias. I'm trying to weigh evenly how strong a character was on release versus how well they've aged. So conceptually, that does mean that a character like Gogeta, I think, could probably go down to B. I think they could go down to B as well. Like, you can move these around a little bit, which is why I also threw the qualifier. I may move some of these characters around, but for now, I feel pretty comfortable with that. Broly, I just... he had his strong points. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about him. He had his strong points, just not... He didn't age great. He just was nothing all that. You know, like he could do good damage. His blue card hit really hard. I mean, he just was what he was. That's fine though. He's a 1% character on the banner. He was less toxic and less notable than Goku Black and Rose here, or Goku Black and Zamasu, excuse me. What happened with this character was they started to get power crept because of stat difference. They also kind of fell out of the boost system, things like that. But conceptually, their green card, cover change mechanics, all that stuff, they're a really strong character defensively, and they were one of the best, if not the best, single best wall in the game at that time. So, like, that almost is enough to put them in A tier. Like, again, just talking about how they were. Another S here is Ultra Gogeta. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this guy. He flat out dominated the game for like 6 months. And was core on his team and one of the best characters in the game until he gets replaced like 10 months later by Beast Gohan, and that's a hell of a long time, man. So yeah, I'm gonna put him there easy. Zamasu, actually, I think Zamasu actually is an S tier here. Zamasu is super strong and was super strong for a really long time. He's kind of, in the current meta, he kind of has the same issue as Trunks, where like these characters that are trying to rely on key reduction, things like that, these characters nowadays are just coming out where they're immune to that or card destruction and stuff like that. Zamasu kind of takes it a step further though, where he also has, I believe, the arts power debuffs, which is nice. Trunks, I don't believe, has that. He might have it on the Zenkai. But yeah, still having those disruption effects, things like that, are good versus mostly every character. But there are characters that are starting to come out that are really strong, that are in a lot of matches that just kind of shut you down. But outside of those matches, Zamasu is one of the best walls and combo stoppers / enders in the entire game. Also, progressively gets stronger, as you would imagine with a Zamasu character. Having the endurance is good too. Goku and Vegeta, or excuse me, Trunks and Vegeta were... I feel like if you asked a certain player base, like a certain segment of the player base, they'd say this character was super good. But I also think the reception with them was that they really weren't. Oh, it's funny. They're another character that's reliant on shutting down ki, which is a fun mechanic. I kind of just, the way I would play them was if they got close enough to popping that effect where they get below like, what, 50%, then they do that ki reduction crap. I would just blow them up with like an ultimate. That's and force them to switch out or just blow them up. That was how I played them, and it made them a non-factor. Also, the Vegeta side was ass cheeks, dude. What is with the Vegeta side on these tag characters not being all that great? I feel like for some of them, like the blues and the fours, it's okay, but this character and then the Super Saiyan 3 later, it's just not great. Like the Vegeta side on this character is just a setup for Trunks, right? If I recall correctly. I'm gonna keep throwing that qualifier because I haven't used or seen some of these characters in a while, so we're working off a recollection, which is fine because we're also talking about how I remember these characters being used at the time they released. And yeah, so anyway, I think they do some fun stuff, some sub-count stuff like that. They have some fun stuff in their kit. Reverse Yellow was also pretty cool at that time, so there's that. but I just don't think that the trunk side was good enough to carry them in the time that they released, and I also don't think they're good enough nowadays. So just kind of is what it is. So let's move on to 17. I think 17 is an easy A tier placement. I think 17 was really good, one of the better walls at the time he released. Also had, I think 17 and Zamasu might have been the second and third characters with arts power based mechanics, right? Don't they both have the arts power debuffs after Pan introduced that mechanic like a month prior, right? So very, very strong stuff popping off. 17 was just a nuisance, right? When you would match with 17, it was hell. So isn't that Hellfighter 17 too? That's funny. I always get the GT 17s mixed up, so maybe it's not. Anyway, yeah, 17 was awesome. So Goku and Vegeta. This is where I kind of feel like we could have some in between, like B+ type tiers, but I'm not even going to bother doing that. I'm just going to leave it ambiguous. I don't want to break it down too much. I typically do that, but I'm not really worried about it. And for context, like I think like some of the older characters like Gogeta Blue could move down to B+. I think some of the other characters deserve to be an A alone, but I'm not going to do all that. So Goku and Vegeta here, really freaking strong. They introduced that mechanic where like if they're using a strike card, you can't use a blue card, right? Isn't that what it is? And dude, basically just having your blue card sealed all the damn time sucks so freaking bad. It's so bad because you can't like, what's it called? Like if they try like, what is it? What's the situation? If they tried like Blast Armor, I think it was, you couldn't like match them or something. It was just weird shenanigans that would happen with their blue card sealing. So that's crazy strong. They had the Dragon Ball up down stuff that they do. They also had offensive pivot options where Goku would switch in and he would draw like the blue card and stuff like. Crazy strong character on release. But I think that what really happens with these stat characters is that after a few months when they fall out of boost, they just fall off hard. They hit a brick wall because even Goku and Vegeta Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 2, I thought were pretty good on release. And their prep mechanic, like it took a while to get to it. It may be unreliable, but I thought they were good. They could do good damage. The Goku side hard carried that unit, obviously. But when they fell out of boost, dude, just good lord. They hit a brick wall. In Goku and Vegeta here, I think you could still use, but they hit a wall too. I don't know that any other character has let me down though as bad as the Tag Blues did. When they fell off of boost, I felt so cheated and scammed when they fell out of, when the Tag Blues fell out of boost. I felt like that. And at that point, I already knew it, but at that point, I solidified in my mind that the boost system, featured boost specifically, was the worst mechanic that they ever introduced. Like, one of the worst ones that they've ever introduced in the game. I can't say the worst, but one of, because it's just such false advertisement. Like, oh my god. Especially when you have the perfect storm of the game kind of power creeping around you, right? So just, oh my god. This guy, easy. Easy S. So, in talking, am I going to move any of this stuff around? It feels kind of lonely to have Dispo by himself and they're a whole tier separation. It also kind of feels true though. It also does kind of feel true. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like I'm going to separate this a bit. I will leave those two in C, and this is also partly age and stuff like that. That's kind of bogging some of these guys down. I feel like Broly could go down to like C+ for the record. And in terms of the rest of these guys, in A, I feel like there could be a B+ / A+, wherever, where you separate. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just kind of do it within the group and just move characters left to right. So we're going to put you there. That means you would be demoted around, but you're better than B, in my opinion, but it is what it is. And by the way, that's not me saying, because I don't really have an opinion on this, Gogeta versus them or anything like that. That's not really what the point of this is. It's more so just, again, relevance and longevity, basically. Relevance at release and longevity in the game. Anyway, so I'm going to move him to the side. I'm going to move you here. I think Jiren with the Zenkai, if Jiren didn't have a Zenkai, he would be pretty low, actually. I feel pretty confident about 4 and 2. So the first 4 and then the next 2 being demoted around. And I think S is fine. So if it wasn't clear, I guess I said I wouldn't do it like 5 times. God dang it. I will just do it. I will just do it so there's no confusion. Get out of my face. Okay, there we go. I like that a lot. I think that looks pretty good. Pretty good. For the most part, again, left to right doesn't matter. UI Goku's not the best character on this group. I mean, he might be, but whatever. So yeah. Let me know what you guys think.